Good evening, everybody. It is 7:15 on our Friday, and we have the potential for some light rain, a wintry mix, and even some light snowfall across our region settling in over the next several hours. So we wanted to hop on here, kind of give you an update of where things are currently and then what we can expect as we go throughout the rest of this evening before we get back into our newscasts in just a little bit. So this is a live look at our tower camera. We're looking back toward downtown Knoxville. The camera's jiggling just a little bit because we still have a bit of a breeze out of the southwest. And let me tell you, those winds were gusty this afternoon. They kind of came up out of nowhere, just real sharp gusts kind of coming on through. In fact, at McGee-Tyson Airport, we had a 44-mile-per-hour wind gust recorded earlier this afternoon. That helped to boost our temperatures up into the low 50s, and now we're starting to see them fall back down now that the sun has gone down. So in Knoxville currently, we have a temperature of 46 degrees with a wind chill of 41 at this point, with those winds still out of the southwest at about 10 miles per hour. But these are actually the numbers that are going to play an important role in the arrival of our precipitation when it gets here. The dew point has come up a lot. It was down at 8 earlier. Now it's up to 16, which puts our humidity at 30%. That's good that we're starting to see the air saturate, because when the air is that dry, number one, it gives us an elevated fire danger, but number two, what shows up on the radar will evaporate before it reaches the ground. It's called virga, when the water droplets fall from the clouds and don't end up reaching the surface. So we've got to saturate first before you'll actually start to see the precipitation reaching the ground in just a little bit. Now let's talk about what happened today because of those southwesterly winds. We started off this morning at 18 degrees, and 33 degrees later, we had our high of 51 this afternoon. We only get temperature ranges like that here in East Tennessee when we have a front come through, when we have extremely dry air in place, and or when we have very strong winds that are bringing in a different air mass. In this case, today it brought in a milder air mass, very dry air for now, but eventually we'll start to see that moisten up and we'll start to see the precipitation. Currently, when we look at the radar, we see those returns showing up back off to the west near the Cookeville area at this moment. So we still have a little while longer before that precipitation reaches our viewing area. And notice how it's kind of breaking up and very slow to make progress. That's that layer of dry air. So in a little bit tonight, you might be looking at the radar and seeing green above your location, but nothing's reaching the ground. That's that layer of drier air that's going to evaporate things for a little while. We're also going to go through a process called evaporative cooling. That happens when you have that moisture falling through that dry layer of air and it evaporates. That process requires heat from the air around it, so that cools its surrounding environment. So our temperatures are going to drop a little bit when it starts precipitating, and we might actually get some sleet pellets mixed in with the raindrops at the onset of the precipitation because of that evaporative cooling process. Science. So initially, when this arrives, you might get some raindrops mixed with some sleet pellets, first on the plateau and then into our valley locations. But again, reminder, this isn't happening right now. We've got a few more hours before this actually starts to get here. Once it does start to arrive, I think we're going to start pretty much as all rain on the plateau, but quickly start to transition over to that wintry mix as that drier air starts to saturate. We go through the evaporative cooling process, and cooler air in the mid-levels comes down to the surface. So on the plateau, you might start as a rain, maybe a little bit of sleet mixed in, then go to a rain, sleet, snowflake mix, and eventually over to some snow. Now notice how the colors are a little bit dark on this particular model run. That indicates that we might have a brief period of potentially some moderate snowfall. This would be for Cumberland, Fentress, Scott, Morgan, Northern Anderson, Campbell, and Southeast Kentucky. Those are going to be the places where, if this ends up happening and we get those moderate snowfall rates, we could see the roads getting coated in these areas. The ground is already cold, and then you've got that evaporative cooling process happening and the wind cooling things off even more. So I wouldn't be surprised if after midnight tonight until around 4 a.m., we end up seeing some slick spots and some coating on some of the roadways in the counties and the areas that I just mentioned specifically. Bridges and overpasses will be the first to get slick. Untreated, secondary, neighborhood roads, or maybe unpaved roads, those are going to be the ones that might get a little bit slick overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning. Notice at the same time that the valley is still rain for this event, cold rain as a matter of fact. But watch this area right here. This is at 2 a.m. Notice how we get a little bit more of the pinks and some of the blues showing up from about, let's say, Dandridge, Morristown, northward in the valley. These areas might actually get a brief period of a wintry mix or light snow right before sunrise early tomorrow morning, right before that moisture moves on out. For this event though, again from Knoxville southward, it's pretty much going to be all rain, and then in the mountains, all snow. Newfound Gap Road is again closed. It was open from noon to 6 today, and it's closed once again. Now tomorrow, we're going to start off with the lingering sprinkles or flurries and clouds. That will be moving out. You'll briefly get some intermittent sunshine during the afternoon. It'll be breezy on our Saturday afternoon. And then look at this. See the blue starting to show back up there? There's another system that's going to swing through Saturday evening after sunset that could bring some flurries or maybe some light rain sprinkles, depending on where you are, after sunset, getting into around 11 to midnight in our eastern counties. That is going to be the cold front that opens the door for some very cold air to start to move in as we go through the day on Sunday. So back to tonight's event into tomorrow. These are the potential totals that we could see. Dusting to a half an inch of snow, maybe a little bit more if any of those heavier bands end up setting up. And again, the plateau in southeast Kentucky, we're going to need to watch that to have potentially some slick spots on some of the roadways tonight into tomorrow morning. The mountains have the highest totals, that's normal. And then we have this area right here, that's our big question mark. Will we see that transition tonight, and will you get a brief dusting on grassy and elevated surfaces? That again would be from about Maynardville, Dandridge, Newport, Morristown, kind of northeast up the valley, and it would be brief and before sunrise tomorrow morning. We'll keep our eyes on that radar overnight for you. Now, like I said, the door's open for much colder air to move in Saturday night into Sunday. We can see that with our jet stream pattern. This trough of low pressure, this is on Sunday. There's kind of the digging trough right there. And then here come those deeper blue colors and that cold air just being pulled in from the north and the northwest. That is a dry wind direction with the setup that we have here. So we get a reinforcing shot of that cold air again as we go Monday night into Tuesday. But we don't have any precipitation as of right now expected with that. I would not be surprised if some of that Arctic air doesn't squeeze out just a couple little snowflakes here and there. That again is Monday night into the day on Tuesday. So very, very cold start to our Tuesday morning. And from there, temperatures get to moderate just a little bit into Wednesday and Thursday. Now, that's when we start to pick up a little bit more of that southwesterly wind flow. That kind of opens the Gulf a little bit for business, meaning moisture can be pulled up from the south. We are going to be right on the cusp of the colder air to the north and the milder, moister air down to the south. Models are hinting at a weather system moving through the flow in that Thursday to Friday time frame, and like I said, we're right on the cusp, so it's very hard to tell if we're going to end up with rain or snow or wintry mix or a transition of all of the above. Again, that's Thursday into the day on Friday, so we have a lot of time to watch it. Don't believe everything you see on social media. You gotta wait until we get closer to it before we kind of can refine those details, but just check back for updates for late next week. Again, to recap for you, tonight we're going to have light rain with maybe a little bit of sleet mixing in, transitioning to a wintry mix and then eventually snow for our plateau counties, staying rain in the central and southern valley, and then that lasts overnight tonight into very early tomorrow. Another chance for flurries and sprinkles after sunset Saturday evening. Then the colder air arrives and is in place for Sunday, Monday. Look at Tuesday morning's lows, by the way. We might have to drop that number a little bit more. We could have actual air temperatures in the single digits and low teens to start off our Tuesday morning. So check back for updates as we adjust that forecast there, but very, very cold on Tuesday. Another cold start on Wednesday morning, and then we start that moderating trend, and we'll be watching for that next potential series of systems, we'll say, coming into the area late next week and into the following weekend. We will continue to track the potential for that rain, wintry mix, and light snow coming into our area over the next several hours and overnight tonight into tomorrow. But I want to let you know about a new feature that you can do at home. We now have a 24/7 looping radar that you can watch on the WBIR Plus app on your phone or on your smart TV. It's free to download. And then you can go find the little tab, the little tile, and click on 24/7 radar. You can watch the radar. It moves around to different parts of our viewing area and then takes you through the futurecast for what you can expect for the next 24 hours. Again, that is available 24/7 on the WBIR Plus app. You can watch it on your phone, on WBIR.com, and on your smart TV as well. So that way you can always keep up to date on the very latest. Stay safe this evening, and we'll continue to track this weather that's coming in this evening. Fox 43 News at 10 and WBIR once again at 11 p.m.